Believe we are live. It's been a while since we've done game dev, so we're going to get back to game dev today. Uh, and I approach a lot of my projects in a similar way because I have to rotate so frequently. I can always expect that when I'm coming back into something, uh, I'm like brain wiped and I gotta reload everything into my brain all over again. So the nice thing about coming into things is that if you write things in a good way, it doesn't look like you're totally insane, and it kind of looks like you know a little bit about what you're doing. Um, this is why here at Evil Dojo we practice and try to encourage good code in a philosophy of two steps. Step one, it doesn't matter how you get it working, just get it working. And two, once you get it working, wow, what's up, dope? My man, I can always count on you. Um, so one, just get it working. Two, go back over your code and clean it the fuck up. Um, that's my two-step process, and that's how I've done everything and gotten as far as I have in my career. That said, I've never worked in a true, quote, agile or what's the other term? Scrum, agile and Scrum environments. Like at a corporate place I worked at, we actually had what we called Scrum meetings, but they weren't true Scrum, if that makes sense. Uh, Waterfall still works. I feel like, I feel like in general, everything just comes down to compile often and review your errors and know how to read errors. Because the number one thing that most students of mine have struggled with, especially normies, right? Like people who aren't like technically minded or people who aren't necessarily like language brain people or math people, is that they understand concepts, but they don't get syntax, right? They don't know how to write something in a way that conforms to their ideas of how something works because their ideas of the syntax are wrong. And so this is where I come in and where I've made most of my money over the last, how long have I been tutoring now? I guess technically 2018, so 5 years. I'm trying to kind of leverage, the fact that I know this stuff well enough to actually go back and fulfill a childhood dream of mine, which is to make a game. And here we are on part 11 of our roguelike development series. So today, for the last 4 parts, this is part 4 of time reversal and entities. We're going to actually put some real entities into the dungeon besides the player. We're going to get them moving, and we're going to be able to demonstrate that other entities with movements that are both random and predefined can go back in time, and we're going to see if we can't also get like repeatable random numbers going so that we can like examine whether or not we can undo time with random movements and then repeat the same movements, or are we going to end up unwinding time and then those randomly moving entities move in completely different directions than previously recorded? That's where I'm at right now. So it's going to be a question of, do we have to reseed our random number generator with the exact same seed so that we don't end up generating new patterns for those entities, or what? So we're going to examine that today. Stay tuned. It is 12:03. I can't wait to put graphics on top. I can't wait to have enough of an engine here to feel like I can sit down and do the libSDL client, because I've mentioned before that the hardest part of this whole process isn't going to be the programming. It's going to be making all of the sprites and all of the graphics and all of the clicking and stuff that I'm going to have to do in order to make that happen. But I think, hopefully, maybe I can get enough of an idea across as to perhaps either develop some artificial intelligent assistants or get an actual human to help me make the sprites. Just try to batch up the work a bit. But all things in time. Stay tuned. Let's take our medicine. It's 12:04 p.m. Central. This is Evil Dojo. I am Dark Mage, and I'm deciding on our intro music right now.
I only speak in whispers. I see you moan, and I can feel you quiver. Cry louder, bitch. I only speak in whispers. I see you moan. Cry louder, bitch. I only speak in whispers. I see you moan, and I can feel you quiver. Cry louder, bitch. I only speak in whispers. I see you moan. Cry louder, bitch. I only speak in whispers. I see you moan, and I can feel you quiver. Cry louder, bitch. I only speak in whispers. I see you moan. Cry louder, bitch. Cry louder, bitch.
Okay, dope. So, estimating the number of sprites that we would have to do, we haven't even defined all of the tile types that they're going to be yet, right? And I don't want to get into a workflow where I'm having to, define a new entity or a new tile or something, and then have to, immediately hop over to the GUI and make a graphical version for it, right? Maybe there will be a point where I feel like doing that, but variable upon a lot of different things. My brain decides it wants to work one way or another, kind of all on its own, and I just flow with it, or I try to anyway. I try not to force it in any one direction. If something comes out a certain way, that's how I do it. So, the way I've wanted to focus on this is that, you say, why would I want a GUI? And it's well, I would like to be able to sell this on Steam eventually. I'd like to be able to make some money doing game development and making games that are true to myself and my idea of something that I would want to play. Because if I would want to play it, I think a lot of other people would too. Um, Sometimes I play some rather obscure games. Sometimes I play some old games. Um, but at the same time, I would also want to be able to play it from the terminal, right? I would want other people to be able to play it from the terminal as well. And I wouldn't necessarily want to charge for that because it's a fucking terminal. Everyone's got one of those. Um, it's not like, the game's anywhere near complete yet, but we have a very solid foundation. I feel like, anyway. We have something that we can extend. And so, let's think about how to extend it. Right? Let's see, where is terminal? Here we go. Some dog is barking outside. It's very distracting. I'm going to draw entities. Right here. Very ugly line of code, but it works. Entities on the current floor, and then for every one of those entities, draw it. So these entities are on the floor. We have get entities, which returns a reference to a vector that sits on the dungeon floor itself. This vector. I'm just currently tracing back through my past to see where I'm at, because it has been like a week, I think, since I last touched this code. Kind of like talking to myself to like make sure I understand. So I think this way I can communicate better with y'all, because someone once complained recently that I don't talk enough while working. But as you can see, I'm just like kind of reviewing stuff right now. My hands are folded, not even holding them at the keyboard because it would not be comfortable for me to hold them there. The question is, where do we actually like add entities? We have infrastructure for obviously adding entities. Where are we actually doing this though? And we're not calling it here. Maybe we're calling it in game state. Yeah. So we have a... Oh, that's right. That's right. I forgot. I actually have a key press built for this already. Watch what happens when I press the A key. Spawned entity at 1-3. It's now got a white @ symbol. If I press A again, it's going to generate another entity at a random location. If I press it again, and again, and again, and again, and if I just lay on the key, pretty soon the entire room is filled with entities. Now, the physics for this is currently broken. These are all like basically ghosts. They're like placeholders. If I start moving around, or trying to move, I can't anymore, actually. And I think this is because I actually added stuff to the movement code so that we check to see if there's an entity at that location before we try to move there. Just like moving into a wall, except moving into a like an in-game object. So I'd have to actually quit the game in order for... Actually, something's broken here. Wait. Oh, it's stuck in a loop now. It's frozen. I have to hit Control-C. Damn it. Alright, before I get further distracted, I love this dog, but he has broken into my room in the middle of focus. And so I need to ask him to be good so I can close the door and or get some music on so I can get into the flow of debugging this bug, right? Because the bug is actually related to where we actually process the add entity. We're actually not even checking to see if like there's a free tile at all. Get random floor tile is also designed to like return a tile that is just a generic random tile. It doesn't care if there's an entity on it or not. And actually, too, working on this, first thing prioritizes it as well as gets my brain warmed up sufficiently to do other projects as well. Projects that I don't necessarily broadcast all the time. Let's see. All right, what does this section do? Actually, what we should be doing is generating a list of coordinates that are free. And if the list is like length 0, then we know that we can't generate any more entities. I don't necessarily need to do this. This is kind of like optional. But it would be kind of nice for the demo add entity, because like you might need to like spawn a rant, because like imagine we're playing the game in like God mode right now. Like we have the ability to spawn whatever we want wherever we want, and we can also even define brand new items and things to add to the infrastructure. So that's kind of cool. We can even create states that allow you to move in different ways. We're going to also define new tile types. But like the point being, for any given sprite, no matter what entity type it is, if it's an entity, a weapon, an object, an item, a tile, something else entirely, there's going to be a large number of those things alone, and then for each one of those, there's going to be variance on the color for that particular sprite. So quickly it gets out of hand trying to estimate without having a more thorough scaffolding in place. So, but I'm expecting hundreds, if not thousands, of sprites, because when I was working on Project A in 2013, the initial goal was to be able to procedurally generate the sprites themselves using in-game like code templates to like draw the sprites on the fly, which may not be necessarily the most efficient way to do it, but it relieved me of the burden of having to actually draw like all of those sprites. And there might be a way to get away with it where I can just like kind of draw the shape of the sprite and then like try to color certain sections, and then just color key off of that. That might be an option. It might be a more efficient way to do it. This is buggy and results in an infinite loop if you've added an entity to every tile dungeon floor. better way to do this. 1. Generate a list of all free tiles that have no entities. 2. Randomly select all. If the length of that list is there are no more free tiles, and we cannot add a new entity. 3, if it's then there we go. Okay, so so this is all just for calculating the so dungeon floor. We're going to create a shared pointer to a vector to a tuple of not necessarily the tiles themselves, but their coordinates. Get free tile coordinates. Let's see what Copilot generated. Free tile coordinates. We start off by making a shared pointer to a vector of tuple int int. We step through every. Let's see, it's calling something called isOccupied, which I haven't written. See, this was a question of whether or not we want to actually store entities on tiles, because yeah, it might end up being more difficult to maintain or reason about things doing it this way, right? So undoing, like, because otherwise we'd have to like run through the list of entities on the floor and then match it up to like each position. And it might be easier to do it this way. So we have to undo what we did previously. So we're no longer going to store the entities. On the dungeon floor. Excuse me. Actually, entities needs to be a vector of shared pointer entities. Yes. So they had a bool is occupied that we're also going to have to define here. All right, so add entity, basic, get entities, return entities. This means we're going to have to change our draw function for entities as well, because we're no longer pulling from the vector that's on the dungeon floor because it's not there anymore. So if we run through every tile on the dungeon floor, we can get whether or not there's any entities, because there could be multiple. You know, we could end up doing some Disgaea style stuff where people can hold things on top of each other or stack players or characters onto one tile. That's possible with this setup. Each tile on the floor has its own vector of entities. All right, so this goes through, gets a reference to get entities on that tile. This assumes that dungeon floor has get tile. Okay, it does. Cool. And then we actually build a list of entities out of that. So the entity has a YX. So we don't have to keep track of like which tile we got that entity from, which is good. So back over in the game state, handle add entity. So back in dungeon floor, we have get free tile coordinates, right? And that's where the idea to move out entities from the dungeon floor and into the tile object came from. So by doing it this way, we can iterate over each tile, check to see if there are any entities on it, and if there aren't, then we can consider that tile free and add its coordinate to a running list of coordinates that we're going to return to the game state. The game state on handle add entity is going to do this. No, my way is not a hacky way to do it. Don't even give me that shit talk, Copilot. Here's how this works. Shared pointer vector tuple int free tiles, and it's really get free tile coords. So if I want to be like super conservative and like stick to my lines being less than 80, then I could do this. Declare it and then assign it. So that's a little bit better, a little bit more readable. A lot of people stick to just dual assignment declaration statements because it results in less lines of code, but because we're working in 80 by 24 today, we're going to do it this way. Free tiles equals df or pointing to get free tile coordinates. So now for auto t and free tiles, we can get the yx and actually at this point we want to actually make a random selection. Random index equals rand mod free tile size. Good. So this will give us a particular tuple from that list. And then we assign our y and x based off of that. This is actually way cleaner as a result. Okay. So this way we actually, all right, so if the length or the size of free tiles is 0, we cannot select anything. No free tiles. Now, handle event, right? Excuse me. Generate entity. That's actually creating the shared pointer for the entity and then passing it to the handle event function. Handle events. Calls process events. Process event takes the event type, in this case, spawn entity. We call handle spawn entity. Now here we're adding the entity to the dungeon floor, but that no longer will work. That's no longer part of the model. So we have dungeon floor, but we have to get a tile. So this would actually return the tile from the map. Add the entity to the tiles entities vector. Add entity. Now we no longer have a dungeon floor vector for entities. But one of the nice things about passing around the shared pointers is it kind of like takes away our need to focus too much on where the parent owner for something is. Cheese was saying the other day that, yeah, if you abuse it, you can't really reason about it very easily. But that's another reason why I'm trying not to share objects between structures too much. Like, it's one thing for another object to like read from that location, but then it's another when we start like adding them to different data structures. Like, if you're gonna add it to data structure, stick to like one and then make references to it later. Let's see. Oh, he's gone. Let's get in the zone here. So we add the entities to the tile. Is there anything else that we have to do there? The get random floor tile doesn't care whether or not there's an entity on it or not, which is different from the get free tile coordinates. So realistically speaking, though, to do random floor tile correctly, well, we kind of rely on the fact that we're setting the stairs before we're adding entities to the dungeon. So in essence, an entity can sit on top of stairs, right? So so this works for right now, but I think a better way to do it would be to so this will actually return a random floor or a random tile so long as it's stone floor and and does not have a door on it. But it's not the best way to go about doing this, I feel like. Generating lists of coordinates and then selecting from them probably is a better way to do this. And so as we move forward in the development process, we will examine our need to change this section and make a reasonable decision on revising random element generation based off of pre-generating a list of suitable values rather than randomly generating the value and then testing afterwards. Yes. I swear to God that makes sense. Next, let's see. Let's just try building. See what we have to fix. Get entities doesn't exist on current floor naturally, so so yeah, now we actually have to no, this is for each entity on the tile. No, we don't even need to do that. We just need to clear no, this is like T pointing to get entities dot clear. There we go. I like that triple nested for loop. Every time you go back in time, this is going to run. It's going to take fucking forever. Especially when it gets big. But thankfully, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Actually, this is going to mess up the size calculation that I do. Well, this gives us the size of the events log, and the size of the player, and the size of the dungeon. Get size. entities. We don't have entities on the dungeon. That's old code. Let's see. All right, we're getting into a vibe here, so I need to get us some music going. also want to check to make sure that the player is not at that location. Nice. Okay, so they're spawning on top of doors too. So I have to check to see if the tile has a door. Bad luck on the generation here. Wow. Crazy.
Bullshit. Shoutouts to TFNet. Shoutouts to everyone who's ever doubted me. You're going down. Killing this shit every single fucking day. If you have a God, son, now is the time to pray. This isn't a game. I don't have time to play. Listen up closely, son. I have something to say. Sick of these fucking haters acting like they don't know what is up. I'ma bust a move, get into the groove. Gonna show you all what the fuck I'm made of. Motherfuckers come around me acting like they don't know what is up. Get into my brain, gonna feel the pain. Guess what time it is? Time to fuck you up.
Sick of these fucking haters acting like they don't know what is up. I'ma bust a move, get into the groove, gonna show you all what the fuck I'm made of. Motherfuckers coming around me acting like they don't know what the fuck is up. Get into my brain, gonna feel the pain. Guess what time it is? Time to fuck you up.
Hey yo, you ever heard about that evil dojo? I heard that dojo's run by a little gimp pimp with a limp though. A fucking slow poke shrimp sneaking creeping on that tiptoe when he is stoned in his home, when he is alone, when he's on that rap microphone. Hey yo, put your hands up if you're down with the sick flow. Hey yo, it's Dark Mage and this my evil dojo. Hey yo, looking for some money and some sick hoes. Hey yo, I'll teach you things that I bet you didn't even know. Hey yo, put your hands up if you're down with the sick flow. Hey yo, it's Dark Mage and this my evil dojo. Hey yo, looking for some money and some sick hoes. Hey yo, I'll teach you things that I bet you didn't even know.
Sick of these fucking haters acting like they don't know what is up. I'ma bust a move, get into the groove, gonna show you all what the fuck I'm made of. Motherfuckers coming around me acting like they don't know what the fuck is up. Get into my brain, gonna feel the pain. Guess what time it is? Time to fuck you up.
December 21st, infinite novelty. Crafting up codes, defining my reality. Never gonna finish writing, that is how my novel be. Action reaction, just a lot of causality. Infinite novelty, December 21st. The start is the end, and the last is the first. You might catch me traveling through the past. It's a blast. I get nasty. Fuck you, I'm a gamma ray burst. Fuck you, I'm a gamma ray burst. Fuck you, I'm a gamma ray burst. I get nasty. I get nasty.
I'm theoretical like tachyon particles. I hit you with diamonds and leave you in sparkles. I'm a demon, I cackles. I'm gonna leave you in shackles. You can't play with my Tetris, you got nothing to stack with. You ain't playing no games, you just high on cracked whips. I ain't got time for fly subs, set up traps. You call yourself a runner, but you ain't running
They say
no laps.
life is the lesson, so don't let make it a teacher. But there's no way I'm a student when I'm really a preacher. I'm boosting up my signal, so my sound will reach you. From the top of your attic to the ground beneath you. In life after death, there might be no conquest. The challenge is now. There's no avoiding this test. In life after death, there might be no conquest. The challenge is now. There's no avoiding this test. I need some more time to write the rest of the story. I'll spare you the details. The process is boring.
If you can't code, your brain is going to explode, rot, corrode, erode, overload, like an electrode. Your whole mind explodes. That's been walking on how many years now on death row? All because you think it would be weird to command your console. So post-mortem, your family, I will console. Shortly before I devour they soul. Man, they brains and bodies I now's control because everyone's got that missing hole.
Yeah, fill it with code. Okay. So, round 2 here, right? Better random selection tiles when creating entity. Press on. And we'll use similar random selection when we, when we're ready to actually play and we're, spawning entities. at random in the dungeon on random turns. This way too, we'd be able to filter by like for instance, how far away the tile is from the player. We'd even be able to generate arbitrary sets of tiles. Randomly select from those, for instance. We could have enemies spawn in groups in certain patterns and whatnot. That's totally doable. But what I want to do right now is get entity movement working. So entity move is its own object. The idea is very straightforward. It's to encapsulate an enumeration that indicates some sort of algorithm that we're going to implement. So back and forth would just attempt to move forward and backwards, or left and right. Random will be literally any of the 8 directions. And none, of course, would be none. So currently they're not moving, and we have no way to process their movement. But in a similar fashion to how we're handling, like, add entity, or how we're handling other events in general, this handle add entity creates an event. So do these. Handle event will create a new event depending on what the event type is. And this is all on key press, but after the player performs his move, her move, whoever's moves, we want to go through all of the entities in the dungeon floor. That means we have to go through every tile and get every entity. But for every entity on the dungeon floor, we want to perform some sort of action. You have to make a decision on this action, but once that decision is made and it's committed to, we want to queue that as an event so that when process events occurs, that entity's event triggers and they appropriately get their turn in the flow of events in the dungeon. So I should really cut that apple up and put peanut butter with it. I'll do that in a little bit. Handle events. We're going to need a new event type. So we're not even checking to see if we're passing in a valid event type, but I guess that maybe there's some type checking that C++ does. But we also set the turn count. That is the current turn. We process event. We add the event to our event queue, or like our log and all that stuff. Then we increment the turn count. But no, we don't want to increment turn count here. No, because this would mean every event the turn count would go up, and that's not right. We do want to increment the turn count at a certain point, but only after the player has performed their move and all of the other things in the dungeon get their turn. Dungeon floor, dungeon, either way. After we handle input, we draw everything. So handle input deals with the player and player stuff, and then, for instance, here we could increment turn counts right there, but we're not like checking through all of the other entities yet. So we could do something like process entity turn. The handle input would handle the player's turn. Process entity's turn would handle the entity's turn, which we're going to have to write that. And then increment turn count, which will, just increment the turn count. Very straightforward. All right, so we're still... Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ooh, something's wrong there. So we commented out increment turn count in handle event, and where we open door. And then we attempted to add it in the main. Very simple changes broke everything. See, it's getting stuck here. There's a... Oh, it's incrementing turn count. As a result, if we try to go back in time, handle time reversal 1 turn. So remove last turn's events. Will actually remove the turns, but it doesn't ever move the turn counter back because we end up replaying all of the events up until the previous turn. But what I think is happening is because of where we were attaching game state, increment turn count, we're actually processing event on handle event. Handle event like in general, when we're handling the player's input, I don't think we necessarily want to increment the counter here yet. But if we went back in time, though, we wouldn't want to increment the turn count, right? So if that, so inside of this if statement, we could say if C not equal to Z, then increment the turn count. Okay. That works appropriately. It still says trying to go back to turn 0, but we can't ever go back to turn 0. But once you move off of the initial tile, it still returns you to that point. And this is still one of those little quirks in the UI where technically back on turn 0. So that looks like that works again. And we're appropriately handling it by changing where we're actually calling things. All right, handling the entity's turn. Current floor, we can just call like that. We can get that dungeon. We can get that dungeon floor. we can get the entities, which this is actually a reference. What turn? Let's see. Hmm. Now, technically speaking, these would never have to worry about this, or like, well, that's not necessarily true. There might be something that allows an entity to gain priority over the others. So there is that possibility. So at the very end of handle entity turn, we're going to see set has taken action to true. And then in the beginning, we will just handle movements. Oh, get type. Entity move type backwards. Right, so both movement back forth and movement random are kind of like wrappers around generating events. So basically it's just about like what the XY that we're generating is. We get the entities YX. Let's see. Handle events. So in this initial instance, entities are going to be moving in one direction only. So handle events called process events. Process events is where we actually define how to deal with entity move. All right, we're going to call this do entity move. I guess we have to check. It's a stone wall. Can't move into it. We can't have them move into a an entity either. So if there's something blocking their path, they won't be able to move. But this should effectively be useful enough for having them move in one direction for right now. Okay, so handle entity turn, and whenever we actually spawn the entity, we want to attach a movement type. Let's see. We actually set it over here, but it's and we can force set it like this. So we're pretty close to being ready to test here. But we're going to have to declare some stuff that we didn't declare yet. See, we're going to have to do... Oh, it's tile type underscore T. Um, oh, it is occupied. $370. Okay. Handle entity movement back and forth on 747. Handle entity turn. Handle entities turn. We're approaching liftoff. Dungeon floor no longer uses get entities. Getting the entities on the dungeon floor that's such a gross line. Okay, that was pretty close, but this would actually return all of the entities for every tile on the floor. So get entities would return a shared pointer vector, because that list would be dynamically generated all the time. So because it's not a property. We're not attaching it to anything, so I'm not using a reference. Oh yeah, that felt good. Maybe raising this up just a hair. Oh, that feels a little bit better. Uh-oh. Oh yeah, because entities is not a... I gotta do that, I think. Let's get entities all. Yeah. And we can actually call process entity's turn. But before I do that, all right. Okay, it's actually handle entities turn. All right. Well, he started on the very bottom, so I'm not counting that. So did he. So did he. Well, he's not moving though, so that's a problem. Okay, so what's going on there? Oh, I guess we're not resetting has taken turn. And also we're not defaulting it. Okay. Oh, yeah. Plus, I don't think we saw anything happening in the event log. Well, no, we see it. It says he spawned and moved. Um, on the first turn, the entity shouldn't spawn, though. There should be like a delay. Hmm. Reset all entity. Entity has taken action. Handle entity turn. Currently, will just generate one directional movement. This generates the event. The event gets processed. The process event is where we actually do the movement. Like we're actually taking the event that got generated and then doing something with it. So actually handling the entity movement part of handling the entity turn, and that's on the big loop. So from here to here, this actually generates an event right here. And then that event gets handled in process event. Which is handled beneath handle event. And if we have to replay the event, then that's handled in process events. Handle entity turn, handle entity's turn. Whoa. So for the current floor, entity has taken action. Oops. So technically this should be done at the end of handle entity's turn. So here we could do curve floor, reset all entity has taken action. So this would individually handle them one at a time. Oh, D, E, F. Ooh, he's moving. Yes. He's not moving. And he's only moving to a point, which is rather odd. Not everyone's moving either. And sometimes they're definitely laying on top of each other. So this isn't perfect, much to my dismay. Let's see if we can get them to go through a door. Nice. And going back in time is not working. Fuck. It's also incrementing turn count. Damn it. We've already been almost live. Yeah, we've been live for 2 hours already. Fuck. We have something kind of working here. Hmm. Yeah, we want to handle the entity's turn, and then oh shit. Oh, they're both moving. Uh-oh. One of them stopped. The undo is working. It appears to work. This is promising. Oh, snap. So it thinks every tile is occupied for some reason right now. Which technically, now I think about it, if an entity moves from one tile to another, we need to remove it from that tile's entities before we add it to the next tile. I mean, I think we're currently doing that. This is going to result in the references getting really out of whack. So what we're going to have to do is Oh, see, here's another problem. Wait, is it a problem? No more free tiles. Okay, let's step back. All right, that unwind is going very nicely. Okay. Big update here. Basic entity movement downward. So rebid how entities move in terms of tiles, tile entity vector. Making sure the entity is removed from their starting tile before being added to their destination tile. Okay. How about we take a break for lunch? Then I can move on to some other projects. I think this definitely counts as progress today. Thank you for joining and hanging out while I actually get some stuff done and move things forward with this roguelike that we're building. Collision detection between entities should come next, as well as applying some additional random movements, but we have effectively demonstrated that we are able to unwind both entity spawn as well as entity movement, no matter what direction they happen to be moving in. That's a win. Thanks for joining, Dope. Thanks for everyone else for hanging out and watching this stuff. The videos are actually getting a number of views on YouTube when I re-upload them. So even if we don't get a lot of people watching live, it seems like people are interested in this kind of work. So it's a win for everybody. Y'all take it easy until next time. Peace.